Welcome to the fourth in our series of NADP conference podcasts. In the last three, we interviewed our NADP country advisors and found out more about student support in Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. Today I'm talking with Tara Chataway from the Thomas Pocklington Trust, one of our partner organisations with whom we work closely. Welcome, Tara.
Hi Lynn, thank you for having me.
Can you tell us something about the Thomas Pocklington Trust? I think a lot of our members will have heard of you, but not everybody.
Hi, yeah, of course. So Thomas Pocklington Trust, we are a charity that works with blind and partially sighted people of all ages to get the most out of education, employment and engagement are the three themes that we work within. And I work within our education team, so I'm head of education. So we support blind and partially sighted people of all ages to get into and get the most out of education, including post-16 education.
So do you have many university students?
So how we support students, so we launched our service back in April last year, so we're just over a year old. And one of the reasons that we set the service up, it's because we were hearing from students that were struggling to access disabled students allowance or were struggling during university. And we were hearing from some students who had dropped out of university or were spending a lot longer completing their courses. And we also work closely with the University of Birmingham, and we've been funding a longitudinal study where they followed a number of blind and partially sighted students from the ages of sort of 11 to 14 and they followed them over 10 years. And during that time, the research found that the students, even though they had aspirations of going into employment and to doing all sorts of wonderful things, when they got into post-16 education, they really started to struggle and were spending a long time in post-16 education. And then many were leaving and then becoming not in employment and education or training, or were going on to university and then not finding employment and then going back into studies. So from all of the research that was out there, we thought there was a real need for a bespoke service. And we'd also heard from students as well that said that they thought there was a lot of information out there, but they just didn't know where to go. It was all spread over the net. So what we've tried to do as well is pull together all of that information in one place. So we speak to students directly and to professionals, but what we hope is on our resource pages, we have about 60 to 70 different pieces of information that cover anything from applying to university or college through to getting finance in place, choosing accommodation. And what we hope is they can go into the website and probably hopefully find the answers to their questions or be directed to where they need to go. And then if they can't, they can contact our service directly, and then we can provide that one-to-one information and support. And we also have a Facebook page that's got about 115 students and professionals as members. And on that Facebook page, students often post a question and other students can come in and answer, or professionals as well. So we're always thinking of ways that we can bring and network people together. And obviously we launched at the start of the pandemic, so it's been quite interesting. That's really helped to shape our service and the direction of our service.
Well, I know we've been very grateful for a lot of the work you've done, because we worked together over a couple of projects, and many of our members were struggling with how to work with sighted guides and habilitation work, and you did some research with some other organisations and produced some fabulous guidance, which I know has been really welcomed by a lot of our members. So thank you for that.
Oh no, you're welcome. And that's really what we hope with the service, is that what we want to do is to provide meaningful information and advice. So it's great to hear from professionals, and all of the guidance that we produce. We've been really grateful to work with yourselves, with NADP, and also with guide dogs and RNIB and universities. So we've provided guidance around accessible exams during COVID, supporting students in higher education during COVID, and also supporting students in further education. And all of those documents we've produced alongside professionals, which I think has really helped to ensure that they are quality documents and that are useful. So,
I do think collaboration over these documents is great because everyone has different ideas, and to get them all down into one place for the students is so important. And we'll, of course, add your links to our webpage underneath the podcast so that members can actually access the information should they need to look at it. And we've also got some on our COVID resource hub too. Okay, so your team's been going about a year now. Is it a big team or a small team, or?
Yeah, so we've, as with all organisations at the moment, we've gone through a bit of a change. So our student support team and our children, young people and families team is now coming together, which is brilliant because that's going to enable us to really focus on the transition of young people as they move through from secondary school into further education. So at the moment, the team, so I head up our team, and then we have 4 members of our team, and they each have different specialist areas, so around mainstream education, mainstream college and universities. And then between the team as well, we all man our student support line, our service to provide information and guidance. We all provide information and write resources together as well. But then we have those kind of specialist knowledge areas that we have. So we're a small team, and we're really excited as from sort of June onwards to take our work across the whole kind of the education spectrum and to move that forward. Because really what we want to ensure is that students can make that transition through education and then into employment.
I think those are the danger points, aren't they? In that students who've been well supported in school and then have to find their way to the next level, and then have to find their way to maybe university, and then have to find their way into employment. And it's different all the way through. And making those transitions, it'll be great to have your service there as a support mechanism to make sure they don't fall between the gaps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from the research from the longitudinal study that the University of Birmingham carried out, and from our conversations with professionals and students and parents, we are really concerned about that many young people falling off a bit of a cliff edge when it comes to post-16 education, particularly those that go into mainstream colleges. The way that funding works is then that colleges often have to buy in specialist support for the students. Access to mobility and independence training isn't always there. And also when you're 16 as well, it's a step into adulthood, isn't it? And finding your way. And so at the moment we're conducting, we've instructed another organisation to carry out a piece of research to understand accessible technology and further education. So how students can access accessible technology, how they can get hold of the equipment that they may need, how they can access different platforms. So what we're really going to try and do is try and understand the picture that's out there and some of those barriers so that we can come up with some solutions and information and advice, so whether that's lobbying of government or providing resources for colleges. So we're quite excited about that work going forward. We feel like we've got quite a lot of information out there around universities, and we'll still build on that information. I think the next challenge is really about looking at that post-16 kind of transition. And I think bringing the education teams together at Thomas Pocklington Trust will really help us to be able to do that.
That sounds great, and I can feel a webinar coming on for our members when you've got the results of that, because we have a lot of further education and higher education members, so I'm sure there'll be a great deal of interest in that.
Right.
But coming to you, what's something about you that I know some of our members are quite familiar with your work, but something about you that they wouldn't know? I don't know really. It's one of those things. So I have a daughter, she's about to start school, so she keeps me busy.
And I'm just starting to get back into my running. I used to be a really keen runner, and so I'm starting to get back into my running now, which is really good. I think it's so important, particularly during lockdown, is around the looking after your mental health. You know, I think demands on working and being able to work more in the evenings, and it can be quite easy to get consumed within work and your home life, and I think just taking a break. So I think I'm slowly realising that and realising that running is a really good way of just kind of sort of breaking out of that. So I'm looking forward to doing that more. And just sort of, I live in Bristol, and I really love the community feeling in Bristol. So it's really good to start now that things are starting to open up a bit more, and to kind of get out there and be part of the community and to be involved. I've been volunteering during lockdown as well, just supporting the council, so a bit of befriending or picking up prescriptions here and there when needed and stuff, which is really great, because I love living in Bristol and I love that community, so it's nice to be part of that. So yeah, so that's me really. I've worked in the site sector for quite a while now, mainly in policy and campaigning. So moving into the service kind of delivery side of things has been challenging and interesting, but I'm really, really enjoying it. And looking forward to kind of the challenges of the education work going forward.
That's great. I totally agree with you about working from home. It's so easy. You're strict to start with and make sure you stick to your hours, and then it just drifts into the evening and you suddenly realise it's 7 o'clock at night and actually you should have stopped a few hours ago. And I find I'm not so good at running nowadays. I had an accident a few years ago, but I'm back on my bike now and cycling around, and that's really beneficial to mental health, and also keeping that eye on your day length to make sure that you're not getting up and thinking, oh well, I haven't got to travel into work, so I'll start at 8 rather than 9, and then it drifts on to 6 and 7 at night, and you're not having any life apart from work, and then you can't switch off enough to sleep. So I think running's a great one.
Exactly. And I think, I'm really aware of it as a manager, and encouraging my staff to do it, monitoring their hours and ensuring that they know that they don't need to. But then sometimes I think it's easy just to ignore that advice yourself, isn't it? And you need to remind yourself and take that responsibility. So I agree.
So you say you've worked in various roles in the kind of site field. When did you first become passionate about working in this sort of field?
So the reason I kind of got into the area of work is because I realised that I was quite passionate about change and campaigning. So that's what really got me into the work. And I worked for an international development charity. I worked for a transport charity, and I worked for an older people's charity, and then a job in the sight loss sector came up. And what I really enjoy about the work and really passionate about, and what we're trying to make sure we do with our service, is about involving users and those with lived experience into coming up with the solutions and producing that work. So as part of our work that we're doing at the moment is we've just recruited 8 volunteers, and we're really excited. They're all students, current students or recently graduated students, and they're going to come on board and help to shape our service moving forward, but also help to get involved in our projects, so to write content for our web pages, to write some of our resources. So we're going to identify what their skill sets are, what they want to develop, and really get that kind of involved. And that's what I'm really passionate about. The work that I do is about involving users, those who've lived experience, and also about doing something that's meaningful. And I like to think that everything we do with the student support service work is meaningful. There's an end use, there's something that either professionals can use or students can take themselves to self-advocate as well. So that's the bit that kind of really motivates me. And I always find it interesting when I speak to friends or others, and they're like, oh, I have to go into work today and I don't enjoy my job. I really love my job and I really enjoy it. And I feel really lucky that I've got a job that I do enjoy and that I feel motivated to do. And I think we've got a great team as well, and a lot of energy in our team. And I think that's really important as well.
So you're working from home at the moment. So will you be back in your office with your team soon, or is that going to stay in abeyance for a while?
Yeah, because our head office is in London, I've always been, not always been, but since working for Thomas Pocklington Trust, I have been a home worker. So it was quite interesting for lockdown to then see everybody else become home workers as well, and get a little bit of a taste of what it's about. But I do travel to London sort of fairly often, about once a week. All of my team are home based, and most of us are sort of towards the west of the country, either in the West Midlands or the southwest. So I'm looking forward to when we can all come together. We're hoping to have a hub in Bristol that's part of Guide Dogs and other sight loss charities that use, that we can go for to hot desk and to hold meetings. And I'm really looking forward to being able to sort of get the team together face to face and going to see people face to face as well. But we are a home working based team.
Yeah, I quite enjoy my home working, I must admit. I tend to get up and walk the dog so that I actually get some fresh air first thing in the morning. And then I'm afraid I do start a bit early, but, I try not to. But yeah, the ability to get up and walk the dog and do some cooking and walk around the garden and then start work, rather than actually having to, because I used to live in London, get on trains and buses and struggling to work and be exhausted by the time you get there. So I do enjoy my home working.
Yeah, it definitely has its benefits in terms of being able, if you can get that home work-life balance right, and you said instead of using your commute time, use it to go for a walk or to do something. I agree. I think it is. I think it's one of those things that, and I'm aware as a manager of making sure that the team don't slip into those bad habits of needing to be at your desk all the time. Because when you're in the office, you have those water cooler moments, don't you? You make other people cups of tea, you have those chats. And I think that's the bit that everybody's missing. And I miss as well, from like going into London and having those chats with people and finding out bits of information that I might not have been able to, I wouldn't have known about, and collaborative, that sometimes where collaborations come up, isn't it? As a conversation that you have with somebody. So yes, I'm looking forward to the days of when we can go back into the office, but having that balance of being able to work from home as well.
Yeah, I think the collaboration side is really important, and you get to, when I was working in a university, I'd have academics come and throw themselves down on the desk beside me and say, you're there, I wanted to ask you something. That doesn't happen when you're home working. I think it's, in a lot of ways, I do miss that. But I think also as a manager, you need to give your team permission to have those breaks and to go out and chat to the neighbours for 5 minutes. It may not be work collaboration, but those are the breaks that give our brain the space to actually come back and do something. Because at home, you can sit down at 9 and suddenly realise you've missed lunch and it's 2:00 because you've concentrated so hard with no distractions. And although that gets a lot of work done, it's not exactly very healthy, is it?
No, absolutely. I think it's so important, isn't it, and I think that was the beginning of lockdown. There was that shift with lots of people working from home, and then feeling that they had to be accountable all the time. If somebody called them, they had to be answering, or they had to respond to an email. And it's like, actually, you wouldn't do that if you were in the office, and it's okay to do it at home. So, as long as you're getting your work done and things are happening, you don't have to do that. And I think also the flexibility of work, everybody's been having to, people haven't they got kids to look after, or caring responsibilities and other things that they're trying to balance, and that flexibility in work I think has been really good as well, in terms of allowing people to do.
Well, that kind of takes us on to the next question I was going to ask you, because people have more responsibilities than just work. We're talking an awful lot about inclusivity as our roles as disability practitioners. So what does that mean for you and your team at TPT?
Inclusivity. Yeah, I think in terms of the work we do at TPT is that obviously for inclusivity, one of the important things has been around technology actually, and making sure the systems that we have are accessible. It's at the heart of everything that we do. we have quite a large blind and partially sighted workforce as well. So obviously there's that kind of inclusivity around that. And then there is that inclusivity around ensuring that people are able to do the job and balance all of their other kind of work streams that are happening. But from the student support service team and our education team, one of the things that I'm really aware around inclusivity is about how we include all students, but how we can engage with them. So we always think of different ways of engaging and different ways to engage. That's why we have our online information. People can contact our team directly by phone line or by email, and they can join our different groups. But we're also at the moment recruiting for a temporary role for 3 months. And what we try to do with that as well is to fit that within the summer term break, so that we can encourage applications from students, and we can be flexible. So it's for 3 months, but actually we can be really flexible about whether it's 2 months or a bit longer to kind of fit around the successful candidates. Because one of the things that we're really aware of is that quite often students are so busy advocating for all of the support that they need, that when it comes to the employment side and the work experience side and their CV side, they don't have, it's not as strong as their peers. So when we kind of create opportunities, we're also thinking about, well, how can we include students in a meaningful way that is a paid opportunity and to get involved in the work that we do. We've had quite a lot of interest so far in that role, so I'm really looking forward to kind of bringing that expertise of the student into it and being able to give them some meaningful project-based work experience between their summer break to kind of move on. So we're always kind of thinking of different ways that we might include students, but also our wider workforce into the work that we do.
It's interesting. When I was doing my master's, I found some research, and I've never been able to find it again, talking about the fact that disabled students are spending 3 to 5 times as much time on their work because of everything they have to organise and do and redo. And of course that will vary between various impairments, but I would love to find the research again, and I think it'd be a really good piece of research to do when we're hearing the government say that students can afford to pay the first £200 for a computer from their DSAs, and we're talking about students who can't work part-time and haven't been able to work part-time because there's literally not enough hours in the day to organise their support and work properly at a speed that suits them, and they might need to go over stuff because they've missed stuff. So I think that it's an important piece of research. We could actually we need to commission at some point in order to try and get some good stats on that. So we've got the figures to produce to the government to say, no, doesn't work for disabled students, and this is why.
I think that would be brilliant. And, from my experience from some of the students we've supported as well, I mean, some of them, some students have had to push exams back for over the summer. So they don't have time over the summer, there is no free time. And those exams aren't because they weren't able to sit them, it's because the exam wasn't going to be accessible for them. So they weren't actually able to access them. So even though they've been doing everything, all of that kind of work on top of advocating, and then still it wasn't accessible, so then exams are getting pushed back. So actually there just is no time to work and no time to get a bit of a headspace and a break between your academic years, which is what the summer's there for as well. I think a piece of research to help to give us that evidence to have these conversations, because if we're really serious about breaking down these barriers, I think we really need to understand what they are, and then I think that would be brilliant.
Yeah, we'll have to do something about that. We'll have a chat again about that one, and also include some of the other organisations and see if we can get something between us for that. Because it's going to be slightly different. And different areas for each one, but I'm keen on that one. Right, we're running out of time rapidly here, but I would like to ask you a couple of final questions. With what's the biggest challenge you have with your specific role, and do you have any ideas on how you're going to overcome it?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think it's something I've been thinking about a lot in terms of bringing our employment work coming together. I think one of our biggest challenges is how do we reach everybody that we want to reach? I mean, vision impairment is a low incidence disability, and then when the numbers are even lower and they go on to mainstream college, and then even lower when they move on to university. So it's about how can we reach these students. But also I think the biggest challenge is really going to be about understanding what are the biggest barriers and how we can address those. And I think it's going to be around FE and some of the stuff about how we're going to be able to do that. I think the coming together of education team is really exciting. I think that's going to provide opportunities, but also through the relationships that we have with yourself through NADP and other relationships that we're building in terms of reaching people that way through other networks. We're never going to reach everybody directly ourselves. So I think it's about using these different networks that are out there. And so we've got some work around building up some of those relationships around with FE as well. So I think there's some of the things that we'll be thinking about kind of going forward and reaching out there. When we first launched our service, we could only contact us via email, but we now have a manned phone line 2 days a week. So we really want to do lots of promotion through that, so that we're opening up different channels and ways for people to be able to approach our service. So yeah, so I think we've got lots of kind of big plans for this year going forward. And I think that's the thing is also, isn't it? It's that big challenge of having lots of ideas, but actually kind of streamlining them so you do the things that are going to have the biggest impact and you do something well rather trying to do everything at once. So I think that's always a challenge, trying to kind of rein in the enthusiasm of my team. We're all very enthusiastic and we want to do a lot. So yeah, just trying to be quite strategic with that. But as I said, we've got some research projects going out at the moment. We've got some information that we're gathering. We're starting to build those relationships. So we're quite excited about this sort of next financial year that we're in going forward.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been great talking to you. I know I've learned a lot about what you're doing and what you're planning to do. And I think we can work together in future really quite closely to deliver some of these things and help you access our members and hopefully get some sort of snowball effect with the build-up of people contacting each other with this. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been so great to speak with you and to talk about our work. And I agree, I look forward to working with NADP going forward.